Tough Call Mediation is brought to you by Herb Legal LLP, serving your mediation and freelance paralegal needs in Ontario, New York, Quebec, and throughout North America. Connect to their website today at www.herblawservices.com.
Hello and welcome to Tough Call, a mediation podcast. My name is C.T. Ayler and I am with the lovely Mr. Dale Sheldon.
Hello.
I have an apology to you and to listeners. I know. I
What?
just have to say it today and catch myself. And we just, listeners, just so you know, we're playing a few of the recordings out of sequence to better balance and make it a more interesting listener experience for you. But I've been saying hello, hello, hello as an intro, right? Like hello, hello, hello.
Yeah,
welcome.
I think so, yeah. A lot of times.
I don't know why it felt so familiar to me. I was just like, why do I keep saying that? Like, I should just think of a different intro or something because it felt familiar, but I couldn't figure out what it was until I realized I heard it from another podcast that I've been listening to. Not one of my top podcasts for a long, long time, but I realized it's Armchair Expert. I don't listen to that one all the time, but that's where I got it from. And then it came up on my Spotify feed, a new Armchair Expert episode. And I was like, oh, I haven't listened to that podcast in a while. And the moment I hit it, I was like, oh, dang. So apologies, Armchair Expert, for me stealing your intro. I mean,
it's just hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
I feel like there must be a lot of people who say that.
There might be, but I think
wasn't there even like I feel like this sounds really familiar, but wasn't there I don't know if it was a podcast or if it was more like a radio show or something
that does hello, hello, hello too. So it's not unique.
I thought, yes. Well, no, I thought you were telling me about this for some reason. So maybe it wasn't hello, hello. Maybe it was something else.
Good morning, Vietnam. No,
not that. No, but this guy, whoever he was, is a Canadian guy. So I had no idea who he was. But he was famous for some big scandal or murdering someone or something huge.
Canadian being famous for murder. There are a few.
Or something, or essay or something. I forget what it was that he did, but there was some.
Love that. There's this Canadian guy. He's either famous for murder or for something else.
I swear you were telling me about him not long ago, and I thought that was part of it, that he opened with hello, hello, hello.
Okay, listeners, help us solve this mystery that we have created amongst ourselves.
Or completely just.
I know.
Fictionalize something in my head, but no, there were. I swear there was someone, and you even showed me like some sort of like doc, like he's been canceled. He doesn't work anymore.
Oh,
but he was hugely famous. Like he like created his own little empire.
He did. Okay, now
in Toronto.
Yes, Q. CBC.
Yeah, CBC. Yes, yeah, that's it.
Oh, did he say hello? No, he said happy Monday.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Or Sunday.
Of. He said something that I thought.
Is it happy Sunday?
You had caught. Yeah. I thought you said that you had caught yourself saying something similar. That was a thing that he used to say
all the time, and it was a thing.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Gomeshi used to say. Yes, you're right. Okay, he didn't murder anyone.
Okay, yeah. What did he do again? I don't remember.
Okay, well...
we don't have to get into it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. There's a lot of Americans who probably have no idea.
I had never heard of this guy.
Yeah, and there may be Canadians who don't even know, because, I mean, it really is just a CBC thing, and it did make international news, though, because the Q was popular in the U.S., but Gian Gomeshi started the Q, and he became wildly popular because some of his interviews with famous celebrities and whatnot. But one of the reasons he wasn't even just canceled, he was taken to court because there were people who came forward and accused him of sexual misconduct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was very abusive in his relationships, and there was some coercion. And unfortunately, he had, well, I mean, not unfortunately for him, he had a brilliant lawyer. She was a very good defense attorney. However, his biggest downfall was the fact that he did take it into the workplace, and he had sexually harassed one of the people who was on his staff. I'm not sure how she was on his staff. Like, I'm not sure she
What
was
her position
new
was,
or,
or-
yeah, I don't know. But she took it also to executives, and they hushed her up. They're pretty much like, bish bosh, whatever. And so when she comes forward, it puts egg on the face, not only of Jian Ghomeshi, but also of CBC. And what she did is she's like, I'm not prosecuting this person. I just simply demand an apology, which is a really good negotiation tactic to say, you just pretty much just say, you did what you did. I don't care about putting you in jail or paying me massive amounts of money. I just want you to apologize to me.
Right.
And that will make it right for me. So he did. And that's what ended everything. And I believe at least one, if not both, of the executives were fired. He did a massive overhaul of CBC, and they updated their policies, and they worked hard at just changing the dynamics of the workplace, which had huge repercussions because it was about, while there were legal consequences, it also had this ripple effect on, hey, maybe we should take anybody who comes forward with this sexual power dynamics, someone who's been harassed, oppressed, coerced, pressured in any way inappropriately in the workplace. This needs to be addressed, as opposed to it brushed under the rug and just take it because, well, he's a big guy. You know, he's big, or they, whoever it is. Well, they're so big, it doesn't matter. But that is not our topic today, listeners. You know, I'm sure there's someone who clicked on this and they're like, why are we talking about Jian Ghomeshi? He's not involved in sports at all.
You just turned into
Yes.
Yoda there for us a little bit.
There is no try. There is two. So sports, Dale's favorite subject matter.
Sports. I know nothing.
I know, but hey, I'm not an expert myself. However, I do find.
She gave me homework. He gave me homework. And the worst possible homework. What was it? One of the things that you said
Moneyball
I had to watch
wasn't terrible.
But one of them, you said it was like 4 movies. I was like, okay, fine. And I started watching one of them. I was like, this is going on a really long time. And then I paused it. It was like episode 4 of whatever this show was. It's like, this is not a movie.
Oh yeah,
and it was so terrible.
Yeah. I mean, oh gosh, what was the name of that show?
I could barely pay attention.
I tried to watch it, and you're right. It's about him being a sports agent, The Rock. A lot of
and
people
I like him.
It. Yeah,
but not that. I could not get into it.
It's Terry. Hold on one second. Let me just pull up the Rock Sports Show. Ballers. Okay, Tyree, we're back. So The Rock is in an HBO special called Ballers, and it's about what it's like to be an agent in sports, and primarily football, but sports. And I'm so sorry, Dale, because I have watched recaps of the series through YouTube.
I couldn't find I don't know what recaps you were looking for. I tried to find recaps of some of the titles that you mentioned, and they were. Oh, and then there was another movie. You gave me the wrong title. I forget what it was. I watched a movie from the 60s. Hustler, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which is actually like a classic film.
Yeah, but Hustle about Adam Sandler, who plays a signing agent. Like he's a talent scout for the 76ers. And I mean, I thought you would at least like it because because
of Adam Sandler?
No, because of Queen Latifah.
Oh, I do love Queen Latifah.
Wife.
You know what? See, I tuned out so much, I don't even remember she was in it. She's not in it that much.
Okay. I played basketball competitively for a little bit. I mean, just school.
And I do love her.
And I do enjoy basketball, especially watching college basketball. I do find it very fast-paced and very entertaining. Not that I sit and watch it all the time. Like Dale's just like blink, blink.
The Garfield eyes.
But I just thought it was really interesting that you see this international aspect of a talent scout going out and meeting someone from Spain who was hustling, and it was an amazing basketball player. And watching him being he was rough. He was a diamond in the rough, because he didn't have all of the backing and the training and really the grooming to get into professional, and he was being put in late. Like he was betting on this kid. And there's a great scene that I'm actually going to put in the show notes. And it's in Hustle. It's the 76ers management meeting scene. And I really like it. I'm going to ask Tyree to just pause here for a second because I want to show you, Dale. Here we go. Okay, so one of the reasons why I really like this scene is, unlike Moneyball, it moves very fast, right? So you're not really understanding sometimes all of this backroom conversation about signing on players and what that means to the team. So when they're doing some of that statistic numbers crunching for Moneyball, as impressive as it is for watching the negotiation scene, Brad Pitt and with Jonah Hill, and he's negotiation for acquiring Ricardo Rancone, and watching that scene, it's considered one of the most famous in like a how-to for sports negotiation. That's the reality of how things can work. But I remember watching that scene and going, okay, so, as someone who doesn't get that involved in sports and not understand all of not just the money, but the hustle of what goes into getting these players on that team, representing the team, playing for the team, having a career for that team, being contracted for that team. It was that management meeting of people going head to head, having conflicting ideas, looking not just at their stats, but why they're trying to pick them. Why are you picking that player and not somebody else? What makes you favor them and not somebody else? And so I like that context. And I think, especially when you look at sports fans who really get into the love of the game, that's something that I still find fascinating, because I just sort of see sports as a playful version of war games, right? And some sort of cathartic exercising of our aggression, or enjoying athletics at its best. There's lots of great, a nice list of boxes you can check off, right? But when I realize it's not even money, but the level of effort and time that goes into these negotiations, and then also mediating between management and mediation between teams and all this stuff that we don't see. We just see the games. Even the Olympics. I mean, I remember Toronto has not won the Olympics for a long time, but it almost came to Toronto. The Olympic Committee was coming, and I mean, probably a lot of people around the world don't know this, but people who lived in Toronto at the time, there was a play being made. Municipal, provincial, federal government, everyone came to pitch this. This is where
for Toronto,
and they wanted to build all of these things to make it like the Olympic Village and whatnot. And there were people who were protesting at the time. They said the Olympics is not to be putting money in when we should be investing in other social structures and whatnot. And I was actually volunteering in a lot of shelters at the time, so I knew people who were going to the protests. And I went to some other friends, and I was having drinks with them one time, and I kind of brought up some of the issues. And one of my friends got quite angry with me. He said, listen, this is very short-sighted. The amount of money that's going to be bringing into the city, the type of development, and look at what happened with various Olympic areas in other places.
Yeah.
It has created housing. It has created affordable solutions. It has created jobs. It has revolutionized the city's economy. And that is nothing but a win for all of Torontonians, no matter where they are on the socioeconomic strata. And I thought, well, that's an interesting point. And of course, the committee comes, and there was massive protests. And that was actually one of the reasons why they stated that Toronto lost the bid, is they said, listen, we're not here to create divisions.
Yeah.
And, this was a really great presentation. Maybe one day when you guys have settled some of your disputes, we can look at it in the future. And they went, and I don't know of Toronto ever making another pitch again, because pretty much the federal and provincial governments kind of said, well, we've already put enough money into this. We're going to go and put money somewhere else.
Yeah. That's too bad. As soon as you started mentioning it, my take was what your friend's was. Like, I immediately thinking, this is great for the city. Like, why would you not? I still don't fully understand what the protest was about.
Right.
I don't understand what even the other aspect of it would have been.
The only thing I can say for the side of people who are protesting is actually looking at what happened in Montreal in the 60s with the Olympics, and what happened with Vancouver in 2012 with the Winter Olympics. Those two Olympics that came caused problems with those cities that still have a lot of ramifications. With the Montreal one, I'm going to have some Quebecers, Montrealers specifically, writing the show going, how dare you? Because they're very proud and they still like talking about the Olympics. But some of that was built very, very quickly. There were some issues. There was some money mishandling. There was some, back then in the 60s, there was a lot of mafia going on. And I think that was what, at the time, people were thinking of, and they were thinking corruption. And so I'm just telling you what I think some of the perspective was. And then pushing ahead to Vancouver 2012, or was it 2010?
I mean, that kind of argument, it basically is like,
I don't remember anymore.
Any development of any sort is just wrong.
Right.
It's like, that's a pointless argument.
True.
To be fair.
I will say, when I went to Vancouver after the Olympics had come, I was very impressed with the infrastructure that did happen.
Yeah.
There was a lot that the whole city benefited from. However, that city, I mean, I'm not blaming only the Olympics. There's a lot of other problems about why that city has become incredibly inaccessible and unaffordable to many, many, many people. Even people who you could arguably say are upper middle class. Mm-hmm. It is, when statistically 90% of someone's income goes into housing, That's really, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know how much of it has changed. My understanding from friends who live out there and live in Vancouver says it has got better. But COVID really caused a huge problem in Vancouver because there's a lot of cramped quarters and you can go anywhere. That doesn't have anything to do with the Olympics, and it doesn't have anything to do with sports. So it's just a really complex issue that I don't think anyone can, sort of pare down to this one thing. And you're right. I think it was a bit short-sighted for the protests. But not having seen the plan personally, I don't know if there was something that was truly objectionable to it as well. Mm-hmm. Hard to say. Olivia Chow.
It also might not have been a great plan. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm a huge Olivia Chow fan. When I lived in Toronto, I got to vote for her as an MP. I absolutely love her. I think, yeah. Sometimes her politics and mine don't align, but she's great. I think she's awesome. So, on to sports again. Notice how quickly you and I just don't even want to talk about it.
Especially in the morning. Yeah, we're kind of...
But one of the things I think is really important, and I'm going to put this in the beginning as well, in show notes. I'm going to send this to Tyree because I think this is really good to help introduce people to the concept of sports mediation. This is from a Sports Conflict Institute, people who actually specialize in negotiation and mediation in sports. That's very polished.
It's very corporate
Yes.
as well. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. But what I like about it is trying to educate people that it's not even just about the money, that there are a lot of things. Last year, over women's soccer football, I should qualify. Was it the coach of the Spanish team when they won? He ended up kissing one of the team members on the lips. Was that what happened? It caused huge waves.
Really?
And it was
I'm just thinking. It's Spain.
Sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Right.
But isn't it? Not that it makes it okay, but isn't it kind of cultural there too?
Heat of the moment.
Although the players are so international and those teams, she may not have been Spanish or part of that.
So
culture.
It was a Spain female team coach sacked. It was the Women's World Cup, and it involved the conduct of the suspended Football Federation president, Luis Riables. I'll put this in the show notes as well. But Jorge Filda was fired. And I ended up watching a clip of when they won. He ran out and they're all excited, and he pretty much grabs one of the teammates. And it is quite like you see for almost a millisecond, she does look quite like, huh? Like she was stunned.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of people, even listeners might write in and say, well, it was a bit overkill to fire him. It was a bit overkill for everyone to react the way they did. That said, I think because there's been, when you look at women's sports and how often they are condescended to, how difficult it is for them to get the same level of recognition as male sports, I think that's what it was. It was more of an opportunity to say, listen, we're doing the best we can to make sure that there is no issues here. Was it fair? I don't think so.
In a way, I hope that's not what it was, because to me, that's kind of a cop-out. Like if they're just going to fire this one guy for doing something like that, which I'm not saying was wrong to fire him, but what are they really doing to make any real change in the culture besides that? Are they giving them giving those women the recognition that they're due? Are they giving them the pay that they're due?
Agreed.
It sounds like they're just kind of doing this to placate and move on.
Maybe, but the thing is, it was non-consensual kissing. That was the issue.
Right?
The
No,
legal
yeah,
issue.
not that. Yeah, exactly. Not that that's not
So,
like a valid thing to
Yeah.
address, but I just hope that wasn't something to shove the rest under the rug. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I do see, though, that we're seeing more women's hockey, women's curling. I love that we're watching women's football. I've always really enjoyed, actually, the American I keep wanting to say football, but soccer football team. I've really been impressed with some of the players. Honestly, until this, I was like, oh, yeah, Spain probably does have a women's football team.
Yeah, probably.
And they won. Yay. But and I think we said in the first episode, I tend to watch FIFA, which, makes me maybe not the best of feminists, but I do root for the Netherlands. I love that team.
I just had the most terrible thought too, and I thought, well, and those those women's teams, they should be able to be recognized and watched and famous, and not in a way that sexualizes them. And then I'm like, although that is why I watch the men's teams. So, I don't care about what they're actually doing.
And the truth is out. But this conflict has been known in sports for a long time, just not even just money-wise, but just negotiations and how players have been treated. And there are I'll post this article as well, but they're talking about famous conflicts in history, and even baseball players, Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax. I was like, oh yeah, why have I heard those names when I was doing some research? And it was actually because of this. I may not know which teams they played on. I may not even know which years they were active in the sport, but I know Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. Why? Because this made such a huge impact on the industry. There are echoes. People talk about it in random conversations sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read this excerpt. One of the first holdouts in baseball history actually came by way of two Hall of Fame pitchers. Not pictures.
Pitchers.
Just imagine someone standing on the mound and then just holding up a camera and taking pictures of the baseball diamond. That would be very weird. That would be a very strange
Even with
game
pitcher,
to do.
I still picture like a picture of iced tea. But anyway.
Are you being served? Okay. Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax were members of the Los Angeles Dodgers way back in 1966. They were at the peak of their respective careers, and because of that, they naturally wanted a little more spending money. This didn't turn out to be a grandiose holdout. Both Drysdale and Koufax didn't miss a single game. But the reasoning for not wanting to suit up was an early indication of how athletes would treat contract negotiations moving forward. It was also about respect. And, we've all... the whole world has watched the movie A League of Their Own about women's baseball during
I think the whole world has watched that movie, probably. It's a fantastic movie. That's one you could have given me on my homework. I would be happy
But I
to
knew
watch
you
that
watched
one.
it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've watched it multiple times.
But look at that. I mean, Tom Hanks is the coach. When he first gets, he doesn't take it seriously. Mm-hmm. He still is this drunk, and it takes certain characters and it's based on a true story, but he really pushes the boundaries of what is acceptable. Well, wouldn't be acceptable conduct today for a coach.
Oh, definitely not. Barely didn't really pass
muster at all
then either.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were doing everything they could, the team, to get attention, to get interest. And finally, they have to have a huge blowout and show him up to make him realize, oh, I think I need to do something. I need to motivate change from within. And that kind of conflict ends up, it's either a make or a break moment. And it's great that it made him as opposed to broke him, because who knows what would have happened in the real story. I mean, it was a composite of people.
It was inspired by
Yes.
real people and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. But those types of coaches who had bad careers, who weren't doing well, those type of people who go, okay, you know what? I think I need to do something about it. I think I need to stand up, which goes into Moneyball. We were talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman's character as the coach, who's really against this change up in initially, and how he initially resisted this. And it really was on him to go, okay, am I going to get with the program or not? And his hand was forced, and eventually he just shut up and put up. And it ended up changing not only the season for that team, it ended up changing all of baseball. And I'm sure there's a lot more. Maybe if there are listeners here who are into sports, they're probably, CT, you have to make this other point. Why are you dancing all over the place? You have to bring up this and this and this. And we would love for you to send in some suggestions about sports negotiations, ones that you think are really important, because as you know, Dale cares so much.
I was like, do we though? Do we want to encourage this?
I actually
This
do.
whole time I'm like, shut up, CT. We don't want this stuff.
I find it fascinating. I'm willing to have side conversations about it, at least, because I see it as a microcosm of how we deal with conflict in the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's even on an international scale, you know, it gets very tribal sometimes between countries, between corporations at war, you know, and you see it. Sports is a great microcosm.
You want to talk about tribal? We should talk about the business aspect and contracts that go into making Broadway shows, because that goes absolutely insane.
We should. Let's do that as a future episode. You can bring me some of the most scandalous ones too, the juicy ones, the dark secret ones.
The juicy dark secret ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll come up with some stuff.
An expose on theater. Because there's some pretty dark stuff that happened. Even in...
There was some terrible stuff. In the early days, you know, the actors had to...
Rascals. That's infamous.
Yeah, the Little Rascals was pretty bad. But in the old days, all the actors had to come up with their own costumes for the shows. They were expected to buy them themselves.
Well, children in any forum, I mean, they're vulnerable. They're a vulnerable population. And something that's quite topical right now in Canada, I don't know about the States at all, but it came out last year, especially in hockey. But sports overall is having a review at almost a federal level because of the amount of child abuse and sexploitation that happens in children's sports, and starting to look at how coaches abuse their power on so many levels. And it's true. And how parents might need to improve their conduct, which is also true.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As someone who had a child in sports last year, we had this situation where, I mean, I walked away from it, and my takeaway was not that, okay, so, sorry, I was, as if you listeners and Dale know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so there was a game, there was a meet between two cities. So our team goes to the home, it wasn't our home field. So we go to their field, and we play this game, and the coach for the other team was incredibly aggressive.
Oof.
Really,
and these are kids.
Big guy too, shouting, hurling things. And also it was a relatively new referee, and pressuring the referee to make certain calls. And at one point, he pressures the ref to make a bad call, which got our team very riled up, and our coach I think he handled it beautifully, but he did stand up for the team, and he turned to the team and he's like, this is not how we do.
This is not how sports is supposed to be.
This is not how sports is supposed to be. And pressured, because we were winning initially. We were doing very, very well. And this coach bullied his way into creating an advantage for his team in such a way that they ended up getting a winning, because they quickly caught up, and then they made a winning goal, and it was pushed past the time of the game too, so that they could do it.
Wow.
And then on top of it, because of his bad attitude, you could tell how his team has been groomed, because they're all turned around, like, yeah, screw you, we're winners, you're losers, like that.
Oh.
It's terrible sportsmanship.
Just
it's the
creating a
worst
bunch of little monsters.
Yeah, it's the worst kind of lesson in sports. And it was very antagonizing, and our kids worked their butts off, and they were very good. My son was relatively new to soccer, so his confidence, after working so hard and doing so well, to watch that kind of bullying happen is very deflating and very undercutting of confidence. So our coach was amazing, gave teachable moments, had a really great talk with our team, and went and spoke to the referee. And the referee was visibly upset and shaken. You could tell she was not handling everything that had happened at all. Very inexperienced coach, referee, so I'm not blaming her at all for what happened, because she was quite diminutive compared to this ginormous tree of a coach who was hurling insults and aggressive and pushing and screaming. It was really tough. It was a tough situation for anyone to be in. And what it did, though, is it provoked one of our parents to say some angry words, choice words to the coach. And his initial opening was pretty much way to be, like, kind of sarcastic, like, really, like, this is how you are. It was it appropriate? Not necessarily, but I could see it is a venting moment.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in retrospect, I realized that maybe this coach has been permitted to be this way because there may be some very competitive, aggressive parents who may even be friends of his or whatnot. Because there are a couple of parents who stood up and they started hurling insults at this parent. I'm just going to call this parent Tom, just so that I could, And
Tom's on your side, right?
He's one of our parents. And because he's so amped up and so upset, and he's feeling very protective of our team, of course, protective of his son as well, he unfortunately really loses his cool. Because not only was this this coach horrible, but now these parents are reflective. And also when you're watching how, at the end of a game, teams are supposed to go up and, kind of shake hands or high five and
that's
say,
like the normal thing.
Good game, good game. One of the kids also was just like, heh, 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 taunting and calling our kids losers.
Terrible sportsmanship.
Yes.
I do not blame Tom. I don't even know what he said or did, but I don't really blame him.
Yeah. And even when he lost his cool at that point with the parents sort of backing up the aggressive coach, when Tom hurled some insults back and he was just starting to really lose it, like see red. Like, how dare you? These are kids, But then he started F-bombing and like a lot of smack talk kind of stuff, because just
making it worse. Yeah.
Yes, and it was devolving rapidly. Several of our parents tried to pull him away, but they're getting closer and closer because several parents have stood up on the other team, and the coach, I mean, in my mind, it's like he's 8 feet tall because he was a big guy, and he's sort of just not, he's goading Tom because he's just like, whatever, your team can't hack it and stuff like that. And not too many people were paying attention because they're more focused on that. But I watched, he almost had this peacock pride moment of like, ha 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 attitude. And I thought, oh my God, if he was my child's coach, I would be removing my kid from that team immediately. This is not the environment I would want any child to be a part of. I don't think any of this is healthy. It's very toxic, and it's creating an issue like that. Oh, it's okay to cheat and be aggressive and rude and mean in order to win, like to win at all costs.
Yeah.
That's not.
It's a very like Wolf of Wall Street, terrible.
Yes. And is that, oh, well, the world isn't fair. That's how it is. Kill or be killed. Sure. There's stuff like that happens in the world. But in children's sports?
Yeah.
Really? That's not the lesson here. That's not the takeaway here. Like, it's just not okay. So, of course, Tom is losing it even more because he, of course, is being goaded by the coach as well. And the parents are starting to rally, and it's getting huge. And my mother was with me at the game, too. And she starts diving right into it. I pull her, and I said, you do not get involved. You take my son. You walk him to the car right now. You get him to go. Okay, and she's just like a moth to the flame. She was like, no, I need to. And she was real, but she turned to Tom in the moment, and she said something brilliant. She said, this is not how we're going to play. I can't remember exactly the word she said, but basically trying to get through to Tom. This is not how you play this. And of course, he's not paying attention at all. And my mom turned and focused on his son, who is crying and embarrassed and gutted and worried and anxious in this moment. I mean, this only happened within a matter of a few minutes tops, but a lot's happening with a whole bunch of different dynamics at the same time. My mom turns to Tom's son and is like, are you okay? It's okay. This is not. And I really like that she did that in the moment, but I want to protect my son too. And I said to my mom, please, please, please remove him, get him to the car right now. Like, cause this might be a calling of the cops situation.
Yeah. It sounds like it's about to go down.
It was almost there. It was, and by the time.
At a kid's soccer game. Like I still can't.
Yeah. And by the time I said that to my mom and she started pulling my child back to the safety of where the cars were parked, our coach got involved with a couple of other parents, and they're literally pulling Tom away. And our coach is saying to the other teams, like, enough, stop. Of course, the other side's coach's team's like, I'm going to report you, blah, blah, blah. You're never going to. It just kept it going. Just really wanted, even more, wanted to push the issue, was pressure pointing the issue, was just like, it's like he wanted these parents to break out into an all-out fist fight. And I love what our coach did that day. I love that he ended up stopping and de-escalating the fight and getting Tom out of the way. And that he was a great role model for my son that day. As we're walking to the car, though, I'm looking at all of these children's face on my son's team. And they're still really dejected and they're upset and they were scared by what happened. But I'm walking up to my son with 3 other of the teammates. And I said, is everybody okay? And they're like, yeah. But we're really happy Tom said what he said.
Oh, that's good.
And I said,
wait.
Tom, the
it's
parent.
Tom. Okay.
And I said, oh, really? Why? And that's when they told me that one of the kids called them a loser and all that, because I didn't actually hear what had been said. They were really upset and really affected by it. So they felt like Tom stood up for them. That
which is important.
It is important. And while I really laud our coach for saying what he said, I agree with what you said. I think Tom sort of venting to the coach and standing up for our kids, that was right. That he continued it was probably not the best.
And the F-bombs with a bunch of kids. I personally don't care that much about language, to be honest. Like if you give the words power, then they have power type of thing.
Yes.
But at the same time, probably not the most appropriate.
It's not effective either.
Yeah, and not effective,
It's just perpetuating the conflict.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really important when you're in the heat and the anger of conflicts.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of things that can fuel it. And that's why it's really important with mediation that when you see those things starting to happen is to make sure you plan in those breaks and those walk away moments. And it's like, we need to stop this right now. We need to take a breath. We need to get these conflicting parties apart. We may even need to shuttle and caucus it where they may even need to be in other rooms because putting them together is just too contentious.
Yeah.
And and that happens a lot in sports, not even amongst just sports management and coaches and teams, even with the fans.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Famous issues like British footballers.
There's been deaths.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yes.
Especially in Britain.
Yeah. There was a famous one
and
that
in
happened,
Spain, I think.
Yeah. There's a famous one that also happened in, I want to say Chicago.
In Chicago? Well, there's one in LA a few years
there?
ago. I think it was a baseball game in LA. I want to say at Dodgers Stadium or something like that. Where there was a big brawl. I was like, we don't do this in LA. Like that wasn't our, that's a European thing, that people getting into fights.
Yeah, there's a bunch of violent spectator sports and listeners, feel free to write in like, oh, don't forget about the time that this happened. Because fan conduct can be incredibly dangerous to players, to each other.
Yeah.
As trampled to death.
Yeah.
Just that mob mentality because people are so worked up, and there has to be negotiations for how to make sure that those animosities or competition, what do you call it? Competitive feelings don't spill over into full out knockout bloodbaths.
Yeah. Now, your soccer story also reminds me of another possible future episode we could do about a play, because I know plays, I don't know sports. But it's called, I think it's called God of Carnage, or the Gods of Carnage. It was on Broadway for a while. It's not a very well known one, but it's a brilliant play. But it's two sets of parents meet for like dinner. I don't even know if it was dinner, but over wine and cheese, to discuss their kindergartners that had a fight on the playground, and it escalates. Heavily escalates.
Ooh,
like it's
I
very
do want to
personal
watch
that. with these two couples. Yeah, we should definitely watch it. It's very, very good.
Oh, we could even bring that into school mediation, because that's what happens a lot. People don't even realize how terrible a principal's job is when parents, teachers, children are in conflict, and it's almost a daily occurrence.
That we could do that. I don't even know what this is from, but there's a famous outtakes scene with Melissa McCarthy as, I think she's a parent on one end, and then a couple of parent, and they're in a mediation with the principal at the school, and it's
Ooh,
just
I wanna
Melissa
see
McCarthy riffing
Ooh,
on.
I want to see that so bad.
It's so, we have to watch it later.
Okay.
But it's just her riffing on insulting the principal and this couple. It's so good. I don't even know what it's from, but whatever that scene is, we should probably watch it too and incorporate that as well.
I like that. Now, here's the thing. When is it healthy conflict and healthy competition? And when is this something that a mediation needs to take place, right? And unfortunately, with sports, happens after the conflict more than, because I think it's such a natural time where it's setting up a conflict. Who's going to win?
What, something happened in the game, and then yeah.
And that's the problem, is we see too many situations where parents are upset about their child in sports, or
although
coaches.
I think too, people get too in their head and in the moment of something like that, and they're not thinking about, okay, these same kids are likely going to have another game somewhere down the line. So yeah, it did just happen, and it's after the fact, but we have to look at the big picture and the long term with these kids too, or whoever it is we're talking about.
I actually, just to tie it back into even the Olympics, because you're saying kids, and I was like, oh yeah, some of the Olympians are pretty much kids when they go too. Like, look at figure skaters.
Yeah, the gymnasts, they're like, they're children. Some of them. I
remember watching this documentary in Taiwan about a sports coach and how he prepares these children for gymnastic sports competitions. And it's brutal. It's child abuse to me. You're watching, at one point, he has this child standing up against a wall, and he's lifted a leg, and he's pushing the child's leg over so that it can touch the wall overhead, and the child is in tears and he's crying, and he's pretty much going, go, push, do it, go, push through it. And that type of grueling preparation that goes on in figure skating, football,
I would be careful to
gymnastics,
see something like that and assume, though, that even though the kid is crying, that he is, only because I know from my experience of growing up in theater and acting, and now it's different, obviously.
Is it though?
It can be. Like the hours that I worked doing multiple shows at the same time, in addition to full-time school, in addition to, I was really running myself down in a very unhealthy way.
Yeah.
And, but I wanted to. It was, for large part, it was my decision until I eventually stopped. But so you do have to be careful, especially with some of these some of these kids are very competitive, and they want to reach a certain goal, and they know to be able to do that, they need their coaches and their parents to step up to a certain degree too. So I'm not saying that's always the case, but just be careful of making an assumption is what I'm saying.
Fair. This particular documentary, I will try to find it, put it in the show notes. But you're watching for maybe a little over an hour of these kids getting horribly screamed at, abused, physically pushed and punished, and
it shouldn't be. Yeah, it shouldn't be that.
It's too much. It's too much. Like I couldn't handle it, and I know I think that's the thing is I've watched some kids truly excel. There's a child who is the same age as my child. And they've known each other since they were bebes, just little bebes in parent meetups and stuff. This kid is athletically gifted. His parents have put him into lots of sports. They are very competitive as well. They do push him, but I haven't ever seen him be pressured unduly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This kid, I've watched him his whole life. He likes what is happening. He's enjoying, he's thriving in it. And his parents are enjoying it. And they're willing to invest that time, money, and energy into him to succeed.
Yeah, that is how it should be. That is exactly how it should be.
Exactly. If a child is not doing well in it and is not succeeding, it's just what the parents want.
Yeah. If they're depressed, if anything like that. Yeah. No, I was going purely on that example you're telling me about of pulling his leg over, that might be something they need to do in order to get the stretch.
True.
But you're right, 100%. That kid needs to still want that. He needs to want that. He needs to be actively
and want to show up the next day and be excited to go there.
And be excited every time.
Yes.
And like, thank you for, pushing me to be able to do this thing.
Yes.
If they're not excited about it, then no.
And that's where my line is.
Yeah.
Is because there are some parents I know who are like, oh, I could never do that. And yet, like there are parents who have, let's say, 3 children in their family, and they're sports-minded people, and really only one of their children is sports-minded, but the other 2 just aren't. But they're just sort of, I know someone who was pushed through a specific type of sport for a very long time and also had really terrible coach. And she was bulimic because they had to make weight all the time. And he was a doctor, and he pushed them to have medication. Oof. And it was so much pressure. And she didn't even want to be on the team. But her brother was the one who was super sporty and excelling. And so she had to be in it too. And she didn't even really like it. But that's what her parents wanted for her. And now she has to take medication for the rest of her life in order to eat, to keep down food. Because that's the thing. What a lot of people don't understand about anorexia and bulimia, especially bulimia. You throw up that often, especially through formative years, you are doing something to your body in a way that is incredibly damaging. All of her enamel was stripped from her teeth. She had to get special coating on her teeth that was very expensive. All of these crazy things.
Yeah.
Her bones didn't do well. She has all sorts of health problems. It's crazy. But I also wanted to bring up how it can make people crappy in their attitude as they grow up too.
Oh,
We're bring up Melissa Rauch. She was in Big Bang Theory. She was in True Blood. She's like a diminutive, tiny blonde woman.
She played...
Very, very funny.
Yeah, she played the girlfriend. I can't remember. Howard's girlfriend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Bernadette.
Yes,
that's her most famous role right now, I think. But she was in a 2015 movie called The Bronze, and she won a bronze medal in her particular sport, and she just coasts on it in this small town that she's in, and she just has this nasty, terrible attitude. And I actually think it's really good comedy. It's a very underrated...
Like an Olympic bronze?
Yeah.
At least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
bronze.
Yeah.
Not that... I mean, that's still a huge accomplishment.
Yes. Yes.
But
it's a great movie to watch the after effects that ever after, because that, I think, is another issue with... Especially with Olympics, but professional sports, too. When you have parents and a community pressuring this person and not caring if they become a terrible person or if their health is wrecked or if they even really want to be doing it.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about the movie the most, is that you see this after effect, this after the bronze medal has been won. Now, I actually know an Olympian. She won a silver medal in bobsled team. Shelley Brown, shout out if you ever hear this, Shelley Brown. But my mom ended up Facebook friending her, and she kind of kept tabs on her for a bit. And she transitioned quite well. She's fine, from what I understand. I mean, she probably has problems like everybody else, but her being in a sport didn't ruin her life. And I think that's the bigger takeaway for any parent who's very serious about putting their child into sports. My son announced that he wanted to be a FIFA like football player. He wanted to be professional. He wanted to be the next Cristiano Ronaldo. And I was
Since you have to get to work at that.
Also, he had never been sporty
And
in
grow
his
up in Latin
life.
America.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen here.
Yeah. Well, he had never been sporty in his life leading up to that moment. But he got really into it for a good year. And I thought, okay, well, I'll support you. I'll go to the games. I'll have you try it out. I'll let you explore this aspect of your personality. I mean, we have never been sports parents, but let's try it. And he went, and he didn't really like it after a year. And that's okay. I mean, he actually wanted to quit a little earlier, but I said, you signed up to this for at least a year. And I kept it on for an extra one. I was like, I want you to feel proficient enough that later on, if you end up just playing with your friends, just casually, you'll still be confident enough to play. You still have enough skill. And he does now. At recess, and the kids get together for just, just kicking the ball around.
Yeah.
He feels confident enough to be on a team and playing well. And that's all I want. I wanted him. I think that's also important. If a kid is showing an interest, but only temporarily, you still have to seek it out for a little bit. It's like, well, get some
Right. You don't want
skills.
them just giving up right away
This
on
is
anything.
hard.
Yeah. Things are hard.
Also, as a parent who's struggled financially, it's a huge commitment. And when I sign up
to move
for
from one thing to
something,
another.
we're going. I paid good money for you to be going to this.
Yeah, in advance. So need to at least get through these.
I am getting my money's worth out of this. I don't care if you don't want to go today. You're going.
Give it a fair shot. Give it a try. Yeah.
Anyway, so we've touched. See, so this wasn't that bad an episode, was it?
Not so bad. No, yeah.
Not traumatized.
Not
You're not gonna have
traumatized.
nightmares.
It wasn't so bad. It also, I just was thinking one other thing that it reminded me of a little bit. And there was a movie called Ballet. It was a ballet movie called Center Stage, I think, from 2000, which is crazy to think that movie was nearly a quarter of a century ago.
No! 2010. Oh my gosh.
No, the year 2000 was 24
2000.
years
I thought
ago.
you said 2010. 24. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I swear this
2000.
movie feels like it was just a few years ago. Oh. No, it was 24 years ago, which is insane to me. Anyway, but one of the characters, well, it's all ballet. And it's these...
I was in ballet for a while.
So was I. Yeah.
Oh, let's pirouette together now.
I
together.
hated it. I hated it so bad.
And I loved it.
I think
dancing.
I would have loved it, except it was the Berkeley Ballet School.
Oh, wow. Fancy.
But I was little. I don't know how old I was little. It wasn't for long. Thank God it wasn't for long. But I remember them they made me wear things that I did not feel comfortable wearing. Like I had to get like a little cup, or whatever, and the tights and all that stuff. And then I was the only boy in the class. And it just was, it made me extremely apprehensive.
Right.
If all of that if that apprehension was gone, I'm sure I would have loved it. And I may have excelled in it, but because I wasn't bad.
And you weren't Mikhail Baryshnikov.
I was not Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Yeah.
I was not.
Famous line in an interview.
And I wasn't that kid from what's the Broadway play where the Tom Holland got famous. Well, Tom Holland for that matter. Tom Holland Billy Elliot. Yes. Tom Holland got his start in Billy Elliot.
Yes.
In West End. Anyway.
No, but Mikhail Baryshnikov in the famous interview line, they said, well, what got you into ballet? And he said, for the girls.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that didn't help me. That didn't help me either. So there's no positive aspect whatsoever. But in this movie, they're like high school, like late high school age kids, and it's like a ballet high school / college, I guess, for the American Ballet Company in New York City. So it's the top school in the country. And there's the one girl, she's amazing. She's naturally brilliant, talented, top of the class, right?
Okay.
And there's another girl who is also incredibly talented, but just not quite maybe as much as she is. But she's right there. But she's black too. And she just isn't given quite the same
opportunity. Oh, not cool.
And partly it's her attitude. She has a bad attitude, but that comes from, you know, how she had to be tough growing, where she was growing up.
And being resentful maybe too.
And being resentful, yeah, absolutely.
Being picked over, right.
Yeah, and not being taken seriously and stuff like that. But she truly just loved dancing. The white girl who is at the top of the and brilliant, she didn't. It was her mother.
Right.
Her mother was pressuring her, and so in the
living through their child.
Yeah. So in the big like show, you know,
dance off. Is there a dance off?
It's a recital, but a recital for them is meaning it's like college playoffs where they're going to get their contracts for the major companies around the world.
Yes.
You know, it's a big deal. She gives her role to the other girl at the last minute in the Swan Lake type thing or something like that, and then she basically quits and she meets her mother out in the lobby, and the mother's like, "What the fuck? What's going on? Why are you not out on stage?" And she's like, "Mom, you didn't have the feet. I didn't have the heart."
Ooh, that's a good line.
Fantastic line. Yeah. Because her mother always wanted to be a ballet dancer, but just didn't have the talent. She has the talent, but she just doesn't love it like her mother did.
I wonder if therapists who are, you know, in child psychology, who have children who are trying to articulate to their parents that they don't want to be in sports or dance anymore, they have that line or that scene in their back pocket, just put it out and be like, let's just observe this and tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah. And she was bulimic because of it too. You know, just trying to meet the expectations. I think it was her. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was her.
Actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because therein lies the inherent conflict between sports and art. What is art? What is sport?
Yeah.
You know, like gymnastics, sometimes they're put down for not being
sporty enough?
No, artsy enough.
Oh, artsy enough.
And vice versa, because as a ballet dancer, I trained in point. And I had to wrap my toes and pack it with cotton and stuff. There were times when my feet bled. And I mean...
Yeah, if you want to see messed up feet, go meet a dancer. Especially ballet.
Yes. And the type of things that had to go through. Now, my career ended very early because my dance school, they weren't able to continue on. And my dream back then when I was 13, 14 was to become not a performer for a dance company. I wanted to be a choreographer for a dance company.
Okay, I get that.
I wanted to be behind the scenes and creating the dance, not being in the dance. And so I went to the Toronto Koffler Center and I went up for an audition because I knew I wasn't ready, and my parents didn't even have the funds for me to be able to go to the National Ballet School in Canada, which was based in Toronto.
Yeah.
So sort of the next level down was to go to the Koffler Center, which was quite far away for me by commute as a kid with no car, had to use public transportation. But I went out and I did my performance, my audition, I wasn't flash dance style, but it was very similar to the thing where I had to do a dance and then I also had to have an interview. But they said to me, you know, I was already considered too tall. My legs are slightly bowed. My feet were wrong because my arches were too high and whatnot. And they said, this is going to be...
There's so many things. If you don't have the right turnout, if you don't have...
Yeah. Well, they said I was good, but they said, this, as you're still growing, and this is going to be incredibly painful for you. Like, are you really sure you want to be putting yourself through that type of physical exertion that is going to have potentially a cost, and you could be taken out with an injury.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, they said, we see where you live, and we see, and you have to dedicate, you have to come here and you have to do this, and it costs this much of time. You have to put this amount of investment in it. And they said, are you really prepared to do that as well? And I just remember it would have been nice that I could go by myself and that it had someone who might have been able to even mediate for me. But I felt all of this pressure, and it felt a very negative experience for me. And I felt like they had talked me out of it. I don't know if that was true, but that's how it felt to me at the time. And I was like, well,
it may have been partly on purpose. Not that you weren't necessarily capable, but it sounded like nothing that they were saying was untrue. So,
yeah, no. They said if I wanted to, I was welcome to come. However, Yeah. And it was a lot of.
People don't realize how much goes into this stuff.
Consider the weight. You need to consider the pressure. You need to consider the physical tax. You need to consider, and this is not necessarily going to be And I just remember going, oh, okay. And just going, okay, I'm going to go, or something like that. And I don't even remember how I ended it. I remember aspects of being in there and my performance and everything. Mm-hmm. But what I also remember is bawling my eyes out on the bus all the way home.
I think it was good that they went through all of that list. I think that's important to make sure, that this young person has a full understanding of the ramifications of what they're about to get themselves into potentially. But they should follow that up with that line from Sister Act 2 or wherever it was. Like, if you wake up every morning and the first thing you're thinking about is dancing and choreography, then all the rest of it just doesn't matter. Just do it.
Yeah, I wish someone had said that to me, because for years after, because you and me have very different takes on dance.
You would sing a girl.
I just love just expressing my body and moving it around. I don't even care how it looks.
And I do actually love that if it's choreographed. I need to be shown what to do, and then I love doing it, and then I love putting, my emotion into that and making it look natural. Right. It's a weird thing. I know I'm not normal in that way.
I agree with you, though, because there's a certain amount of competitive and professionalism edge that has been maybe
drilled into me from a very young age. Yeah.
And that also in sports, there are some people who will not get together with a bunch of people on the weekend to just, turf the ball around. No, this is a serious thing, because I've done all of this training. I only want to do it in a particular type of venue format capacity. Yeah,
which is why I really don't like karaoke. I don't like doing karaoke. Because, again...
How are we friends, Dale?
Because I never know what track they're going to have.
Oh, yeah.
How shitty it's going to be.
Poorly timed. It's not even like how it was.
And I can't handle that. I'm used to having... I literally grew up from a very young age being able to sing solo with an actual orchestra following me. You know what I mean? Do
you still hear the orchestra following you, Dale?
Yeah. Well, my whole life is a movie in my head. No, but I that's what I got used to at a young age.
Right.
So now anything like that is still a performance. So then going up in a I know it's supposed to not matter, and it's a bar, and who the fuck cares, but I still can't get rid of that idea that I'm performing, and it has to be right.
I think I need to take you over to Asia so you can get the whole KTV experience of just friends going into
I did do that once.
Love that.
That was more okay, except I only really knew like the one person, and then it was like her brother that I didn't know very well. And I even remember because it was her
cute.
I'm not, they might listen to this. No, but I remember being nervous because I didn't know him very well. And because of that, I didn't sing up as I should.
Right.
But
You
then I didn't let it go.
inhibitions go.
Whereas me and my friend Angie, who was, the friend I was there for her birthday, we would just, sing out in the car and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's normally how we would have been there. But then with her brother, and then there was some other people, I can't remember who else was there. But then he heard me sing, but quietly. And at one point he goes, you know what? You're actually pretty good. If you just sang out, you might actually be pretty good. And then and she's like, yeah, he actually sings like really well.
He's professionally trained.
But he's just not doing it right now.
So listeners, here's the thing. We would love you to weigh in on our arts versus sports debate that is slowly blossoming. Do you love karaoke as well? Would you have karaoke before or after a game meet? Who knows? These are the things people do to blow off steam after a competition as well.
Both are equally important in school.
Yeah. So tell us what you think. toughcallmediation@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing anything you have to say. Write in any questions you have, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
Thank you for listening to Tough Call Mediation. This podcast is sponsored by Herb Legal LLP. Editing and original music by Ty-Ray Lawton. Marketing by Jasvir Badi of Herb Legal LLP. Assistant marketing by Hope Ursek. Connect to our website, herblostservices.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.